Have we already seen the site of Battleworld and potentially the ramifications that are being set up for Secret Wars? The Secret Wars arc is building up not just the creation and diversity of the multiverse, but also the imminent destruction of it as well. In the original storyline, the multiverse has been all but eradicated, and only a few survivors from various different realities are allowed to seek refuge on Battleworld, where the remainder of the arc would take place. While we are eagerly anticipating seeing our favorite multiversal heroes join together in the fight against Kang, is it possible that Battleworld has already been revealed to us? Well, today, my friends, let's discuss what might lie in store for the domain, which will eventually come to be known as Battleworld. The location in question is one that we are first introduced to at the end of Loki's first season. Hidden beyond the void at the end of time is a domain protected by Alioth the Usurper, and this is where we are first introduced to Kang's Citadel. We believe, however, that this citadel has a vast history of its own, connecting not just its own past, but its future as well. We see that it's a manor in and of itself, far too large for just one person to live in, and we see evidence that He Who Remains was at one point not the only inhabitant. In fact, we see various statues that seem to resemble various incarnations of Kang, and we believe that this is indicative of a past life. First, let's go back and see what we believe is the earliest point in the Citadel's lifetime, and then follow that timeline all the way forward to Battleworld, and how this involves Loki. If this was once the domain of several Kangs, or perhaps even the Council of Kangs, then is it possible that this is the same domain that we see at the end of Quantumania, and in the end credits scene? We know that this is a realm from which the Kangs can see the multiverse from the outside, much like the Citadel, which as of now is the only other place that we know of where this can be done. When we see the Kangs assemble, it's in a sort of stadium, which might be a precursor to the Citadel, or perhaps it could be somewhere else on the grounds. In actuality, Loki and Sylvie only covered a small portion of the mansion in their exploration, and it's very likely that either the stadium is torn down and replaced, or that it simply exists in the same space. From here, this would have been the common meeting house for the Council, and perhaps it was even exclusive to the most powerful and commendable variants of the character, such as Rama Tut, the Scarlet Centurion, and Immortus. We say this because these three, in addition to some of the others, appear to be the leaders, and this could be their common meeting ground. This does bring into question how they can still be present if Loki has reformed the Citadel into his own version of the multiverse though, and the simple answer is that they can still be a threat simply because they exist before He Who Remains ever took the manor, and therefore before Loki later would inherit it. It's important to remember that they don't measure time the same way that the timelines do. They exist outside of time. This doesn't mean that they don't have their own past, present, and future though. So even though they're existing at the same point in space, they're not existing at the same point in their time. They might actually see the multiverse being reformed from this perspective, but since they exist beyond time, much like the TVA does, then they can exist before Loki outside of the multiverse. We know that the TVA evolved across the course of their past, present, and future without it interfering with how the multiverse perceived time, and we think that this is the same sort of thing occurring in the Citadel. What's different about the Citadel though, is that it saw the last version of the multiversal war as well and is a remnant, and these events could have been derailed by the introduction of Loki, the god of stories. It's also important to remember that these events aren't necessarily taking place in the same way that they did during the last war, and this might be the first time that this version of Loki was introduced into the conflict. So it's useless trying to figure out how Loki would fit into the previous multiversal war because he probably wasn't there. What we're trying to figure out is how Loki will change the cycle, and he might be doing this by being the last to stand in the way of Victor Timely, otherwise known as the next He Who Remains. Last time, He Who Remains beat all the other Kangs, but this time, he needs to beat all the other Kangs and Loki. Once they all die out, however, then He Who Remains will likely be crowned the victor. But as of right now, this is not the end of the story. And we know that in the past, He Who Remains eradicated the multiverse by using Alioth to consume it in its entirety, only to reconstruct the multiverse into one sacred timeline. And the next iteration will probably attempt to do the same thing. If the next younger variant of He Who Remains wants to destroy the multiverse, then he has a prime target to attack, which is the new Yggdrasil. Right now, it's believed that this is Victor Timely, and as of now, we don't know where he is after the destruction of the Loom. If he is able to weaponize Goliath, then he might attack Loki in order to attack the multiverse as a concept, just like his predecessor did, and this could be what was hinted at during the finale of Season 1. If Loki loses, however, then much like in the original Secret Wars story, the multiverse might be consumed in its entirety. No timeline is safe, even the mainline Earth 616, which was the last reality to fall in the original comic event, but it did eventually get destroyed. Whether in the MCU it's by Kang, a Beyonder, Doctor Doom, or someone else, Loki may be under siege as the multiverse begins to fall apart, and someone could finally come and conquer the God of Stories. We know that Loki is sitting on the same throne, inhabiting this domain, and this region beyond time might be the only safe place from the destruction of the infinite timelines that tie the tree together. If there isn't a timeline left in which anyone can reside, then the only place that anyone might be able to exist is in the remains of the Citadel, and this could be the new home of the Battleworld story. Right now, we don't know all of the universes that could be involved, but we have reason to believe that the three primary Spider-Men, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and several variants of Reed Richards will be involved in the conflict, not counting survivors of Earth 616 and refugees from the other timelines that we have yet to meet. This Citadel then might be the battleground of which these survivors have to navigate while the multiverse is being reconstructed. As for what exactly this might entail though, we only have the original comic and our ability to theorize based on what the MCU is setting up. Right now, the multiversal arc is setting up Kang as the primary antagonist, and it's likely that he will remain in this place until the conclusion of the Secret Wars saga, or be recast or replaced by a separate villain. If one lone Kang variant has the best chance of being the final antagonist, it's likeliest to be Victor Timely, who has now grown into the next variant of He Who Remains. Only this time, he had Loki to alter the cycle of the multiverse. Even though Loki may lose, and the multiverse might be destroyed in the process, his ability to alter the course of history could have saved countless lives. After the multiverse is restored, it could be far more secure and safe than ever, simply because Loki ensured that the events didn't keep taking place the other way around over and over again in the cycle. This would allow the multiverse to consistently exist without any monumental looming threats. While individual timelines will still certainly be threatened, there may never be another multiversal eradication event, since Loki would have stepped in and secured the timeline. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this idea? Do you think that Loki's Citadel will host Battleworld? And if so, how do you think this ties with the Council of Kangs? Do you believe that He Who Remains is still going to be the final antagonist? And if he is not, who will take his place to threaten the multiverse? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel today. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great one.